Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Growth and Gratitude podcast. Let's start right off with gratitude. I'm going to share 3 things that I'm grateful for, and then I'm going to ask you to do the same. So 1, I am incredibly grateful for the lovely Mother's Day that I got to have with both of my parents. 2, I am so grateful that I got to spend time with one of my closest friends, Karen. We don't live near each other, and so she came to see me, I came to see her, and we had a nice long visit. It was amazing. And 3, I am so grateful for my 2 dogs who provide me unconditional love and cuddles. You know that I love my fur babies, and I know many of you out there can relate. So whether they're cats, dogs, whatever pets you have, we are, I think, grateful for them when we have them and get to enjoy them in our lives. So now it's your turn. Please pause this recording, and whether you're listening or watching, and say out loud 3 things that you're grateful for. Welcome back. I hope that you got to enjoy some of the many benefits that we derive from practicing gratitude and actually thinking about and saying out loud what we're grateful for. As I talked about in my first episode, there are countless physical health benefits, mental health benefits, and emotional health benefits from practicing gratitude regularly. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that first episode, please do so. Now let's talk about growth. What are we going to cover today on the growth front? Well, I am so excited to share with you what I'm going to teach you today. And I'm still learning all about it myself and practicing it regularly and trying to deepen the work that I do with what I'm going to share with you, which is something called the self-coaching model, which is meant to be used to analyze what's going on in our life and can certainly be used ultimately to deal with any problems or challenges that we have and to make changes that we may want to make. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction to it. There's a lot more to it, but I want to keep these podcasts short and sweet. So I'll introduce you to the elements of it, share some examples, and then really try to give you an introductory look at how you can start applying it in your life to coach yourself. And then you might want to also consider working with a coach who uses this model. Now, where did I learn this model? I must give credit to the creator of the model, Brooke Castillo. She is the founder of the Life Coach School. If you want to learn more about this model, please go to her podcast, the Life Coach School podcast. She's got over 400 episodes. I've listened to all of them. I love what she teaches. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I'm also certified as a coach with her program, the Life Coach School Coaching Certification Program, and I'm also certified as a coach with the International Coaching Federation, which has many models that teach the same kinds of concepts. The self-coaching model is based on a long, rich history of study in many disciplines. Brooke Castillo herself will tell you that she created it, but she simply pulled together theories and ideas and research and other approaches to helping us understand what's going on in our lives to create this model that has 5 simple elements that you'll be able to understand and use very easily. So the model came from all of Brooke's study of many teachers who I've studied as well, and maybe you have people such as Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle and Pema Chodron and Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, Dr. Martha Beck. I also want to say that this self-coaching model, or the model as we call it for short, is also completely aligned with many areas of study such as Zen Buddhism, Stoic philosophy, and also cognitive behavioral therapy. So if it seems like some crazy out there idea, please trust me that it's based on much research and study of human nature and why we experience things in the way that we do. So we're going to talk about the model. I want to share it with you by giving you the 5 elements of the model, going through a few examples, and I also want to share examples from my life. I have used this self-coaching model in my own life to work with getting to and maintaining a healthy weight over the last several years, exercising, growing my business, increasing my revenue, improving all of my relationships, especially my relationships with my spouse and my kids and my parents and friends and people in my life, with working through really difficult situations that I wanted to change my mindset about and change how I was reacting to. So it can be used for anything, for career-related goals, for personal goals, anything in your life, to solve problems, to deal with challenges, to really mindfully engage in your life in the way that you want to. So let's talk about what the 5 elements of the model are briefly. So first of all, Element number one is called the circumstance. A circumstance is simply a fact that you cannot control or change in the moment. It might be something you could change over time, but right now it's simply a fact. It might be something that happened in the past. It could be the weather, it could be your weight or a health challenge you're currently dealing with. And it has to be an absolute fact that all reasonable people would agree to. Element two of the model is a thought. A thought is simply a sentence in your mind that you have about a fact out in the world. So it could be a thought that I have about something from my past, such as, I didn't have a happy childhood. Or it could be a thought about the fact of my weight, such as, I wish I weighed less. It could be a thought about the weather. A fact is maybe it's raining outside, right? And I can have the thought, I don't like the rain. I feel tired when it's raining. Or I could have the thought, I love the rain. We're in a drought. We need the rain. So a circumstance and a thought. The third element of the model is a feeling. A feeling is an emotion that you feel that is a vibration in your body. Sad, angry, happy, ashamed, joyful. It's one word that describes how you're feeling, an emotion that you're feeling. It's very important to understand that we have thoughts about circumstances, and then our thoughts create our feelings. The feelings don't come from the circumstances out in the world because different people have different feelings about what's going on, right? So the feeling is actually created by the thought that you're having about the situation. This is so important to understand. Element 4 of the model is action. The action, that's a simple definition, right? It's what you do or you don't do. It's how you respond to something, right? It could be inaction or action. The action is a result of the feeling we're having. So circumstance is a fact. A thought is a sentence in my mind. A feeling is something I feel as an emotion, a vibration in my body. I could feel it in my chest. I could feel it in my stomach, right? It's an actual vibration in my body. It's an emotion. And that then drives an action or inaction or a reaction. Now, the fifth and final element is the result. What is the outcome? What is the actual consequence of the thought, the feeling, and the action? And by the way, again, this is cognitive behavioral therapy also says our thoughts generate our feelings and our feelings drive our actions. This is something that most people are not aware of on a day-to-day basis, and it's so powerful to be aware of. So the result could be your body weight, how many times a week you exercise, the state of a relationship, your level of success, the amount of money you make, your degree of happiness. Because think about it, the actions in your life create all of the results in your life. Whether I exercise or not, how I eat or don't eat, those actions determine the result of my weight, determine the state of my body. So those are driven by my feelings, which are driven by my thoughts. Okay, so examples. Let's look at some simple examples to bring this to life. Yoga. I do yoga regularly, but I haven't always. So a yoga class is just a circumstance. There's a yoga class happening tomorrow. I go to yoga every Monday at a yoga studio. I love it. There's a yoga class happening tomorrow. That's just a circumstance in the world. I might have the thought, well, yoga doesn't really do anything for me. Yoga is a waste of time. It's not really as good as a hard workout. Yoga is a waste of time. It's not as good as a hard workout. You can see how that's just a thought I'm choosing, right? That's just the thought I'm having. What feeling might that create? Apathy. Well, it's not going to make any difference, so I feel apathetic. What's the action I take? I don't go to yoga class. What is the result that I get? Well, I'm not getting any no benefits from yoga. I'm not getting any benefits from yoga. The interesting thing about the result is that the result serves as evidence to keep thinking the thought. Even though the thought is not true, it's just an interpretation. And often our thoughts are in our subconscious and we need to do work to bring them out to the conscious level. Often our thoughts are not true. We're just choosing to believe them even if they're not serving us. So let's look at the alternative. The yoga class is happening tomorrow. Let's say I choose to think yoga is so good for me. It's so good for my mind, my body. I'll feel better all week. I feel energized, excited to go to yoga. The action I take, I get in the car, I drive to yoga, I work hard in my yoga class, though not to injury, just push myself to the limits that I know will benefit me. And what is the result? I am benefiting from yoga in my life, physically, emotionally, mentally. You can see how this is an example of the model. A circumstance, a thought about the circumstance, a feeling that is driven by the thought, an action that's driven by the feeling, and then the result that we get. Think about how powerful this is. Another area I really like to apply it to is relationships. So let's say my spouse, Neil, a circumstance is maybe we have dinner plans and he comes to me and says, I have to cancel our dinner plans. I'm going on a volunteer call. So he volunteers for search and rescue. And I think it's wonderful. Of course, I support him. I'm very proud of him. But right, sometimes, calls come out and he goes on the volunteer opportunity and we have to change our plans, right? So it's a fact. By the way, something that someone says or does is a circumstance. It's a fact in the world and we don't have control over it in the moment, right? We choose how we're going to react. So let's say I think, well, he's a selfish jerk. We had dinner plans. I was looking forward to it and I feel angry. And how do I act? How do I respond? Well, I snap at him. I give him the cold shoulder. And the result is he's unhappy. I'm unhappy. Things are not going well in our relationship. There's tension in our relationship. I was thinking he's a selfish jerk. Really, I'm being a selfish jerk because he's going out to help someone who's in need in a search and rescue call. So what would I want to choose to think instead in a situation like that? Circumstance is the same. Just a fact in the world. He says, I'm canceling our dinner plans. I'm going on a volunteer run to help someone who's in trouble. I choose to think I'm so proud of him for his search and rescue volunteer work. He saves people. He helps people. He's so wonderful, right? What do I feel? I feel love. I feel loving and appreciation toward him. What do I do? What do I say on the action line? I say, maybe I'm honest and I say, I'm disappointed. I wanted to spend time with you, but I support you and I really hope that the call goes well. Please be safe. That's the action I take. What's the result? More love, more appreciation, more connection in our relationship. I'm responsible for my own feelings, thoughts, and actions. I can't blame them on him. So it's been completely transformative in my relationships, with my friendships. You'll hear a friend say something like, well, she should call me on my birthday. That's just a thought. That is not a fact. The only circumstance there is someone had a birthday. The thought, she should call me on my birthday, I feel disappointed. And what do? I say, you're not a good friend. You didn't call me on my birthday. The result is there's a problem in the friendship. There's guilt. There's, difficult feelings and difficulty in the relationship. What if I thought instead, she was probably busy and I love her and I'm going to reach out and see how she's doing. And I feel appreciative of the friendship and I take action and I find out that she feels terrible that she forgot and she's struggling and now I can help her with her situation. And the result is a close, loving, wonderful friendship. So you can apply it to so many situations: exercise, weight, our relationships, our job, any result that we're getting in our life. So how do we actually use the model? Well, one, you can start with any line of the model. Start with a feeling. I'm feeling sad. I don't know why. What am I thinking that's making me sad? And I'm not saying, this is a really big, important part of the model. We're not saying that you always have to feel a positive feeling or that you have to always think a positive thought. This is an awareness tool to be aware of the dynamic of this circle and what it's creating for you. If I say, well, I'm sad because my dog passed away, is a circumstance. Dog passes away. My thought is, this is sad. I really miss him. My feeling is sadness. My action is to cry and to grieve, to look at old photos. The result is that's healthy processing of emotion. That is healthy grieving. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just being mindful of what's happening and what we're actually doing. Now, if I realize that my thought is creating something that's negative, a negative feeling and a negative action, and I don't like it and I want to change it, this is where my power lies. Like I gave the example about yoga or my spouse thinking negative thoughts that lead to negative feelings and negative actions that I actually don't want the results of in my life. That's where I have the power to change it. And it's my choice to change. So we use this tool in coaching. You can use any line of the model. Start with a feeling, start with a thought. If you realize what you're thinking, ask yourself, do I want to be thinking this? Is it helping me? Is it serving me? Another area that I've worked with for decades as a professor in teaching communication studies, I taught public speaking courses, beginning and advanced. And a lot of the work I did with my students, even though I didn't know the model for most of those years, was around their thinking. It was my students would come into the public speaking class thinking, I'm a terrible speaker. I'm so nervous. I can't deliver a good speech because I'm going to get so nervous. I'm going to fall apart. I'm going to forget all my points. All these self-defeating thoughts that made them feel overly anxious and nervous and terrified to give their speech. And so what was the action? Well, usually if they were that nervous and thinking that many negative thoughts, they probably didn't deliver a good speech. And so the result of getting a bad grade on the speech, not delivering a good speech, proved again as evidence for the thought, I can never do a good job in a speech. I'm a terrible speaker. I'm going to get nervous and forget everything. This is also a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is a legitimate psychological concept. Another potential way of looking at it. So I would coach and encourage my students to think positively, to think the circumstance is simply, I'm giving a speech in my speech class. But to think what could happen if they think, I've prepared, I've practiced, I've used the outline that my instructor gave me, I know the topic well, I'm confident, then they might have feelings of confidence, or at least feelings of less anxiety and nervousness. It's perfectly normal to feel nervous about giving a speech. And it's, again, we're not saying you have to, it's not toxic, positive vibes only, positive thoughts only. It's just which thought is going to serve you. So maybe a student could simply get to a thought, well, I've prepared well and I'm ready to give a good speech. And then they feel slightly nervous, right? Or they feel excited, with a little bit of nervousness mixed in there, but their action is to give a good speech and to do the best that they possibly can on the speech. So the result is, getting a good grade and doing a good job on the speech. So you can apply it to so many different situations in your life. It is not positive only. It's a matter of seeing, what am I thinking? What feelings is it creating? What actions is it driving? And is it giving me the result that I want? It's so important to use it with how we feel about other people. Confirmation bias is a very real problem in relationships with people we work with, people in our lives. If we're constantly thinking negative things about someone, we're probably feeling anger and frustration and annoyance and disappointment, right? And we take action that then maybe isn't so nice, right? Snapping at those people or not being very warm with them and getting that result of them just reinforcing what we were thinking about them, when maybe that's not really who they are. Maybe that's not how they interact with other people. If other people have an open mind about them and treat them kindly, then maybe they would show up differently. Now, I am not suggesting that you should condone bad behavior or abuse or anyone treating you poorly. If that's happening, that's a whole different situation. What we're talking about here is choosing thoughts that serve you. If you feel someone's mistreating you, you might want to think, well, I'm going to respectfully address the situation. I'm going to tell this person that I didn't particularly care for what they said. It's our thoughts about what they said that make us feel a certain way if we feel hurt or disappointed. So I can think, if my husband says something to me and I'm thinking, well, that was an insensitive comment, I can choose instead to think, well, I'd like to address that with him. I want him to know that what he said made me think that he didn't appreciate me. And so I felt a little bit hurt by my thought that he didn't appreciate me. And I'm going to take the action of opening up a conversation, loving and respectfully, to see what's really going on here. So it's not meant to say that you always have to let people get away with things, but it's meant to say that it's going to be your thoughts that are creating your feelings. And feeling whatever you're feeling is fine if it's healthy and it's what you want. Thinking whatever you're thinking is fine. Again, if it's healthy, if it's what you want, if it's not harmful to you or other people, and if you're making good conscious choices in the action line, by the way, we call it the C line, the T line, the F line, the A line, and the R line. And you can start with any of those. If you start with the R line, you're looking at a goal. And listen to my first podcast episode again. So the result line is simply a goal. You can put in the weight you want to be. You can put in the amount of money you want to make. You can put in not arguing with my kids anymore. You can put anything in that result line to start with if you want to, if it's a goal, but then you go backwards. What actions do I need to take? If it's a certain weight, I need to eat this way and I need to exercise this way to be at that weight. If it's a relationship, what's the action? I need to not yell at my kids to have harmony with them. What do I need to be feeling and thinking to stop myself from yelling at my kids when I'm about to fall into that negative pattern, right? So pick any line in the model, use it, plug in the rest of the pieces of it with analysis. Be aware that we have somewhere around 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So there is so much to work with here, and put the thought in the thought line. When you bring it out of the subconscious, most of our thoughts are in the subconscious. We just have to journal and talk them through to get more clarity on what they are. And you can use this model to really figure out any challenge in your life and where you want to go with it. I hope you enjoyed that introduction to the model. There's so much more to learn about it, so many other ways to use it. I have a video on YouTube about it. I wrote a blog post about it. I'll put those links in the show notes. I'm also going to link in the show notes and the description resource that you can use to write out your models and to read and understand more about the model. And to really get the most on it, check out Brooke Castillo. She has dedicated her life to life coaching and to teaching life coaches how to bring these amazing tools, this and many, many more of her amazing tools, into people's lives to help them live the lives that they want to live. So live in gratitude, because we know that that helps you to move through all the challenges in life. And if you really want to grow, start using the self-coaching model and see how it works for you. I'd love to know. So keep in touch, and I'll talk with you next time. Bye.